Hey guys, Tarke here, and I was having a discussion on stream, and I just wanted to see what you guys think of this, to see if this is a fair assessment or not. This very rough, very crude drawing I've done in front of me on Paint is what I think the average player loop is. And when I say average, I mean the average person who actively engages with Path of Exile league by league, follows content creators, uses Reddit, stuff like that. So I'm kind of talking about the average involved Path of Exile player, not the, well, the most amount of players quit before Hillock, if you know what I mean. Okay. So this is a loop I find myself stuck in a lot of the time, this loop that a lot of my viewers find themselves stuck in, and this is kind of how I've curved out the difficulty, so to speak, of PoE. So you have and this is assuming, like, you know, start of league, fresh, no currency, or whatever. Okay. So you start out. You hit Act 1, the difficulty goes up a little bit to Act 2. Act 3 is a bit harder than Act 2. You get a nice little spike in the middle of Act 3, sort of upper sector of God. Go up into Act 4. You then have Act 5 being substantially harder. Act 6 is mostly just a resist check, but otherwise the difficulty kind of goes down a bit. Act 7 is about the same as Act 6. There's one or two scary things, but a lot of the scary side bosses are optional and you skip them, come back to them later, so that kind of just continues along. Then I have this massive difficulty spike when you hit Dewedry, because Dewedry is really difficult if you have the DPS. If you have the DPS, you use Space Roll, but a lot of people wait on their first build. Then it spikes back down. The rest of Act 8 is mostly fairly easy. You'll then hit Blood Aqueducts. You'll farm Blood Aqueducts until your build really starts popping off, or until you get a Tabula or whatever. Then you go into Act 9. At this point, it's pretty easy once you've done your farming. Go into Act 10. Act 10 is a little bit harder than Act 9, but mostly pretty easy since you've got a couple of levels. You have a bit of a spike at Katava if your build can face roll it, which a lot of builds can these days, you know, Trapper, Miner, whatever, then it's not even an issue at all, but, you know, you have a difficulty spike. Then everything becomes pretty face roll as you hit lower tier maps. And then between sort of tier 1 and tier 10, you've got a slow gradual increase. It's not really sort of until about, you know, high yellows, low reds that you start to actually notice, like, a lot of regular, like, ooh, difficulty increase. But by this point, your character's probably around low 90s. You know, you might be like, you know, level 90, level 192. And then you decide to just re-roll because you've seen some cool new build posted somewhere, you got a fancy item or something. And then you end up back at square one. And then you go through the same cycle again. And then maybe you push a bit higher, but you just seem to get caught in this cycle. And I'm just curious about how many of you think that, yeah, this is a fair assessment, or like you do or you don't do this. Because this thing I find myself breaking into a lot. And the only times I've ever really broken out of this cycle is when I've done, like, you know, my 100 pushes, and I went to, you know, well, obviously 100, then I went to, like, 98 and mid-90 and stuff. But I have to, personally, really push myself to actually get out of this, this cycle of things. I feel like this is where most players are. And I'm just kind of curious to see if that's kind of, yes, this is actually where most of you are. Or if you think the difficulty curve is completely different. But, because a lot of the time people talk about difficulty in Path of Exile, there is very hard content. Like, there is hard content in PoE. You know, some of the higher bosses are very difficult, and you can get a lot of hard content if you're doing the crazy, you know, 8 mod higher tier maps. I feel like that's where most people aren't getting. And I think that one of the best things that could really be done to that would be to actually just even out this part of the difficulty curve, the sort of the tier 1 to tier 10 curve. I feel like if this was a little more steep, or a little bit more of an incline, you'd then maybe have a bit more of a drive to go through it. But I don't know, that's just kind of something I've been thinking about a little bit recently. And I'm also aware that a lot of people get caught in the whole unlocking of the Atlas themselves, and that's sort of that. But yes, anyway, I'm Tarke. How would it be more steep? Well, have it so tier 1 maps are harder than this shit, so have it so that the, you know, the tier 1s start more sort of like here, and then you have sort of tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, you know, have it so it's a more steady boom boom boom, rather than having this massive early maps are way easier than everything else. But anyway, yes, I'm Tarke. Have a good day. Let me know if this is roughly accurate-ish for you. Bye-bye.